your Storm Tracker 13 forecast first. Sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers.
Hot, humid weather across the area today, leading to another round of thunderstorms this afternoon. They're already starting to wind down along the Grand Strand. Just a little bit of light rain here or there. Still some thunder and lightning across interior parts of Horry County, Dillon County, up to Robeson County, but not nearly the strong storms we had about an hour ago or so. And they're also pushing on off to the north. Things will clear out a little bit overnight tonight, and we're going to heat back up again tomorrow. Temperatures right now not too bad, 70s along the coast because of the rain and the clouds around. Not as hot as it was earlier, but it will stay warm and muggy tonight, and we're back into the 90s tomorrow. I'll let you know if we'll see more storms tomorrow coming up.
Coverage you can count on at 5 starts now.
Right now on News 13 at 5, an investigation is underway after an armed robbery at a Marion County Dollar General.
Then strong words from Florence's mayor after an incident regarding a fire being started at a park. We'll take you there.
President Trump is in Turkey for day one of the NATO summit. I'm Nana Bonsu with more on the deals the president is making with the host country as he confronts other European countries for their lack of support.
Thanks for joining us for News 13 at 5. I'm Adriana Lawrence.
And I'm Annette Pegler. Tense and scary moments last night at a Marion Dollar General. The Marion County Sheriff's Office is investigating an attempted armed robbery that happened there.
Deputies say 3 masked men walked into the store carrying guns but left empty-handed. News 13's Morgan Baker reports.
The Marion County Sheriff's Office says the 3 suspects ran from the Dollar General before they could take any money or merchandise. Deputies say they responded to the Dollar General on North Highway 501 Business just after 10 on Monday night. Employees told investigators 3 men wearing ski masks and gloves entered the store, each armed with a gun. Authorities say the suspects ran from the area on foot without taking anything. I called the sheriff's office for further information, but they said they cannot release any additional information at this time. I also reached out to Dollar General for comment, but the company declined and said their employees cannot comment as well. A frequent customer I spoke with was shocked at what happened.
I've never heard tell of her store getting robbed. And all the people in here treats people nice. I have never had none of them to be rude to me.
The incident is actively under investigation. Anyone with information is asked to call the Marion County Sheriff's Office. At 6, I'll have more reaction from this customer to the attempted armed robbery. Reporting in Marion County, Morgan Baker, News 13.
Morgan, thank you. Officials say a lightning strike is being blamed for a house fire in Conway. It happened just after 4 p.m. yesterday when heavy storms were moving through the area. Crews were called to the home on Highway 319 in the area of Harris Shortcut Road to find light smoke coming from the house. Crews were able to put out the fire quickly. No injuries were reported and the damage was minor, so the residents were able to stay in the home.
Florence police have charged a woman who they say intentionally started a fire at her home. 37-year-old Kimberly Townsend has been charged with second-degree arson after the incident that took place Sunday at her home on Rutledge Manor Drive. She posted a $50,000 bond and was released from jail the same day. According to an arrest warrant, Townsend placed 3 cans of gasoline in the kitchen area of the home and used a lighter to set the room on fire, then was seen leaving the house. The department says they're currently investigating.
In Horry County, fire rescue crews were called to save someone who was trapped in their vehicle after a tree fell on top of it. The incident happened along North Kings Highway. One person was taken to the hospital with injuries. News 13's Jordan Titus is at that scene, and we'll have more details tonight on News 13 at 6. In the PD, 1 9-year-old and 2 11-year-olds are being charged with setting fire to playground equipment at a park in Florence.
And the mayor is calling on the community to help stop vandalism and destruction at the park. News 13's Eric Cooper is live in Florence tonight. And Eric, what did the mayor have to say?
Well, Annette, Adriana, Mayor Barnes says while some may look at it as minimal damage, she says it never should have been done in the first place. The incident happened at the Dr. Iola Jones Park. Authorities say someone passing by stopped Florence police to let them know the playground was on fire. When the officer arrived, 3 children were running from the area where the fire was lit. Mayor Barnes says this is not the first time incidents have happened at the park. From vandalizing other property at the park to destroying the garden, she says those responsible were not held accountable, but this time will be different.
We did not really use it as a teaching moment. That's why now I come and say, this time we're not going to just say, oh, it's just kids being kids. Kids need to understand that there's a price. There's a price. And these juveniles are now in trouble for damaging property.
The damage to the area is estimated to be around about $1,500. Coming up at 6, hear what Mayor Barnes says about those caught and their consequences. Reporting live in Florence, Eric Cooper, News 13.
Eric, thank you. Well, this afternoon, the city of Myrtle Beach met to discuss a controversial ordinance to limit capacity for new bars along Ocean Boulevard. The proposal would limit occupancy for any new bar or nightclub on Ocean Boulevard to 150 people. Bars and restaurants licensed as of May 12th would not be impacted. City leaders say the goal is to make the city more family friendly, but critics have questioned the proposal, saying it will put new businesses at a disadvantage and might discourage any new development. News 13 was at the meeting and learned why current businesses will not be covered in the current overlay.
If you were to pass the overlay with a hard cap of 150 for bars, taverns, drinking places, that would not impact nor change one thing on the boulevard right now, with the only one possibly being in the consideration would be the Bowery. But they're grandfathered, so they can't be touched. So there is no existing business currently on the boulevard that we are aware of that is a drinking place with a capacity of over 150.
And you'll hear more from this meeting coming up tonight on News 13 at 6.
Well, some sad news today for the News 13 family. A former chief engineer that was pivotal in bringing WBTW on the airwaves has died. Bernard Moore began working at WBTW in 1954 and served as the station's chief engineer for 37 years, earning the respect and admiration of colleagues throughout his career. News 13 spoke with Moore last year as he celebrated his 100th birthday. You can see there. Moore is survived by his 3 children, along with many grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
News 13 on-time traffic, sponsored by Joy Law Firm. Just call Joy.
And traffic is slow at times right now on 501 between CCU and Carolina Forest, especially Conway bound traffic. Also some slowdowns on 544. Drive times along the Grand Strand on 501 from Carolina Forest to CCU. That'll take 16 minutes. 17 in both directions along the Grand Strand, moving just a little bit slower than normal. Florence area looking okay. No problems in town right now. I-95 moving along nicely. Currently on 95 from TV Road to 76. That'll take 9 minutes. Palmetto from 5 Points to Irby Street will take 5 minutes, and 52 from Palmetto to I-95 will take 7 minutes.
Frank, thank you. As the NATO summit kicks off in Turkey, President Trump announced he will lift sanctions on that country, which he calls a friend.
And Donna St. Bonsu has the latest from the White House.
President Trump received a military welcome from Turkey as he arrived for the NATO summit. A short time later, Trump announced he will lift some economic sanctions and will consider allowing Turkey to buy U.S. F-35 fighter jets.
We don't want to sanction friends. It's very simple.
During his first term, President Trump banned Turkey from the fighter jet program over its use of Russian military technology, and Congress passed a law restricting the sale. But now the president is signaling he may have had a change of heart.
Turkey's been in many ways much more loyal than other countries that we think would be loyal.
President Trump's warm relationship with Turkey comes as the White House continues to clash with European allies over a number of issues, including his interest in Greenland.
That should be controlled by the United States, not by Denmark.
The Greenland comment is likely to renew tensions with Denmark and other NATO members. It comes as the alliance announced billions of dollars in defense spending, following President Trump's criticism that it doesn't spend enough.
Over the last year alone, we have seen $37 billion invested in just boosting our defense industrial base itself.
Ukraine's president, who is set to meet with President Trump tomorrow, asked for more assistance to fight back against Russia.
Please help us get more air defense missiles. This is our top priority right now.
President Trump said after speaking with the leaders of Russia and Ukraine Monday, he thinks both sides are going to settle the conflict, hopefully soon. Nana Saint-Bonsu, CBS News, the White House.
The NATO summit comes a little more than 2 months after the Pentagon announced a plan to withdraw about 5,000 U.S. troops from Germany, as well as reductions in fighter jets, tanks, and other equipment.
Several blocks were evacuated in Midtown Manhattan today after structural support beams were found buckling on the 21st floor of a building under construction there. The office building located on East 42nd Street was formerly occupied by Pfizer, but was being converted into an apartment building, according to local reports. Emergency teams have evacuated the tower and other nearby buildings. No injuries have been reported.
A stunning new allegation is rocking a pivotal race for the U.S. Senate in November. Maine Democratic nominee Graham Plattner is accused of rape by a woman he once dated, a claim Plattner denies. At least 13 Democrats are now calling on Plattner to drop out of this race. Caitlin Huey-Burns is on Capitol Hill.
Graham Plattner, once considered a rising star in the Democratic Party, now facing an allegation of sexual assault from a woman he alleged to have dated 5 years ago. Jenny Rassicott told Politico she first met Plattner in 2019 and that their relationship was consensual until one night in 2021 when she alleges Plattner came to her home uninvited, forced her to have sex after she repeatedly told him to stop. She told Politico Plattner was, quote, almost blackout drunk and said, quote, I remember the specific moment where I thought to myself, like, this is no longer my choice. In a separate interview with CNN, Rassicott claimed she feared for her safety.
He violated multiple layers of consent that night by coming into my home when I asked him not to, and by advancing on me when I told him not to.
Plattner, after postponing campaign events in recent days, responded in a video Monday afternoon.
I wanted to directly address the troubling, serious, and false allegations against me. Any accusation of non-consensual behavior is categorically false.
The oyster farmer and Marine veteran is no stranger to controversies. During his primary campaign, he faced scrutiny over a tattoo he later covered up after critics said it resembled a Nazi symbol and claims of toxic behavior from alleged previous romantic partners. Plattner has denied those allegations, but said during that time he had been struggling with undiagnosed PTSD and was self-medicating with alcohol.
Regardless of the inaccuracy of the reporting, but mindful of the political reality it will inflict, we are taking the time to reflect on the best path forward.
Now, this race has the potential to shift the balance of power in the U.S. Senate, and Plattner is facing pressure here. There is a July 13th deadline to drop out of the race, and then the state Democratic Party could pick Plattner's replacement to take on incumbent Republican Senator Susan Collins in November. Caitlin Huey-Burns, CBS News, Washington.
The heavy rain and thunderstorms some of us enjoyed today are winding down this evening. I'll let you know if this rain chance will be back again tomorrow. Coming up.